Okay. Ahangin, listen. Now stop working and listen. Nah? Theory 16. Right. Calculating the area of a triangle. Calculating the area. Theory 16. Starting a new theory now. Calculating the area of a triangle. Calculating the area of a triangle. Calculating the area of a triangle. Joining 3 points. Joining 3 points on a xy coordinates plane. 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 Below that in red color pen, write area of the triangle or else area of a triangle is equals to half into. What's the area of a triangle? What's the area of a triangle? Tell me. Half into. Over than nothing. What's the area of a triangle? What is the area of a triangle? How to calculate it? Let Java drop a message in the chat box. What's the how to calculate the area of a triangle? Breadth into perpendicular height. Breadth. Base into perpendicular height. කවුදයකෝ කටපාඩම මැත් කරන එක BH. යතයි. Half into base into perpendicular height. Okay, half into base into perpendicular height. In a ලියා ගන්න half into half 2 road base into height කපලා ලියා ගන්න modulus of inside the modulus, or you don't have to write the word modulus of Kila inside the modulus, right? Inside the modulus, right? Determinant, not the discriminant, okay? Determinant of the matrix, determinant of the matrix made by the coordinates of the vertices of triangle, of the triangle. Muqaddane UA. Base into height katawa, we can calculate the area of a triangle by multiplying the base with the height and multiplying with half if we know the perpendicular height and all. But metana kata karanne matrix simplification ekak. Just understand the pattern. A pattern එක මතක තියාගෙන කරන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. Nothing else. Just to remember the pattern and do it. Just to remember the pattern and do it. Now let's take, listen, now don't write. Now listen. What is this? Area of a triangle is equals to half into absolute value of the determinant of the matrix made by the coordinates of the vertices of the triangle. මොකක්ද ඒ UA bilateral. So let's say you have a triangle and the 3 coordinates are A, x1, y1, B, x2, y2, C, x3, y3. ඔහොම ගමුකෝ. පුතා determinant එක calculate කරන්න නම් if you want to calculate the det, First of all, I'll define a matrix. Let's define a matrix. Matrix එකක් define කරනවා. Let's define a matrix. Capital M කියලා ගන්න. Listen very carefully. This is how we define the matrix. This is how we define the matrix. Listen very carefully. This is how we define the matrix. You can give any name. You can give any name. Capital M, capital A, capital B, capital C. Since I have used capital A, B, C for the vertices, I will use a different letter, capital A. First thing, before we calculate the area, remember the steps. If you want to calculate the area of a triangle using this idea, number one that you have to do is, first of all, we have to define a matrix. Take a name in capital letters for the matrix. How do we define a matrix? කොහොමද matrix එක ගන්නෙ? දැන් මේ matrix එක define කරන්නේ like this. Okay, this is not modulus 1, this is just a bracket. කොහොමද matrix එක define කරන්නේ? X coordinates in a column, x1, x2, x3. X coordinates in the first column, y coordinates in the second column, y1, y2, y3. Any order, okay? Any order. Since this is a triangle, you can start with x1, x2, x3, or you can start with x3, x2, x1. Habit පිළිවෙලට in clockwise direction or counterclockwise direction in a particular order. You can start from any point. You can start from any point. x2, x3, x2, x1, x1, x2, x3, x3, x1, x2 කැමති විදිහ. But the same order you have to maintain for y coordinates also. The last column is always 1, 1, 1, 1. How do we define the matrix? X coordinates in one column, y coordinates in the second column, and then 1, 1, 1. This is the matrix. Within a matrix එක විතරයි. So when we write matrices, box bracket එකට දාන්නවට වැඩිය, the recommended done is curve brackets. Parentheses දාන්න. Better to put parentheses. This is a matrix. This is the matrix. Okay, this is the matrix, not the determinant. Make a matrix. Now I'm going to calculate the determinant of that matrix A. We name it as det. What do we name? Det. When we are discussing matrices, we'll discuss about this heavily. Here I'm just giving an introduction. Make mama questions දාන්නෙත් නෑ paper එකට. In my papers I will put not like a heavy complicated questions I won't put. Term exams they might ask a question or two, but heavy discussions of this one will happen after we discuss matrices in the classes. Theory class එකේ matrices කතා කරායින් පස්සේ මේක කතා කරමු. Here we are just taking an introduction, so just get the idea, that's enough. Determinant. In all levels we have matrices. I don't think that we have to calculate the determinant. O-level එක determinant calculate කරන්න තියෙනවා. Usually in my O-level theory classes I don't discuss matrices lesson in the class because බොරු වැඩක් එක discuss කරොත් මම disappoint වෙන හින්දා I put only the questions that comes to O-level exam in my papers and I discuss it. Lesson එකක් විදිහට theory class එකේ මම discuss කරන්නේ නැහැ for O-level students when it comes to matrices because matrices මෙලෝ රහක් නැහැ O-level වල දින ඒවා. Those who have studied matrices in O-levels, just tell me, do we have determinant calculation in O-levels? Someone? The method lamai. However, a massive amount of my class students, somewhere around 12 to 13 students of my class is absent. On the recording බලාගන්න කියන්න යාළුවෝ. No, determinant කියලා දෙයක් අහලවත් තියෙනවද? Determinant, not the discriminant. Det. We name det of M, not A. Det of the capital M matrix, we'll name it as det of M. Det of M. A determinant is calculated පුතා මෙන්න මෙහෙම. Remember, this notation here that I'm using is not for the modulus. මේ modulus එක නෙවෙයි මම මේ දාන්නේ. This is the modulus or the absolute value. One is the notation for the determinant, det. If you put something inside this, it says that you are going to perform a calculation for the determinant. You're going to perform a calculation for the determinant. You will discuss about this one in vector spaces, linear algebra, and ඒ වගේ heavy mathematical concepts වල ඔයාලා කතා කරන්නේ not in A levels. So මේ වගේ lessons උත් තියනවාද A level? No. A level වල you don't have vector spaces, so vector calculus, මේ linear algebra, මොන මගල complex analysis, ඔය මොකුත් නෑ ඔයාලට. හරි. ඒ ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ university level. University level. පුළුවන් නම් engineering කැමති කට්ටිය engineering කරන්න. maths කරව කැමති කට්ටිය physical level එක maths කරන්න පට්ටාතල. පට්ටමාතල. හැබැයි obviously make sure that you select statistics if you are willing to go in maths field. maths වලින් excel කරන්න හිතන් ඉන්න කෙනෙක් stat එක maths කරන්න. stat එක maths කරන්න university වල. Those who are willing to go in physics, stat physics maths කරන්න. stat physics maths කරන්න. chemistry වලින් special කරන්න ඉන්න කට්ටිය maths, physics, chemistry or maths, statistics, chemistry කරන්න. chemical analysis, if you are willing to go in chemical analysis side, better to do maths, statistics and chemistry in university. හේතුවක් තියෙනවා. දැන් හේතුව අහන්න එපා. We don't have time to explain it. So remember, this is not a modulus that I'm going to calculate. I'm going to calculate the determinant. Det. 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 Determinant. To calculate the determinant, Puta, we put the matrix format inside the determinant. This is actually not the absolute value. When it comes to determinant calculation, this is an operation. Determinant එක calculate කරපන්. Calculate the determinant කියන idea. So this is x1, x2, x3, y1, y2, y3, 1, 1, 1. This is there's a reason why I put the parenthesis here. Okay, matrices වලට parenthesis එකක් දාන්න. These are 3 by 3 matrix. 3 rows and 3 columns. This is a determinant. This is not a matrix. Matrix එකේ තියෙන elements are here. This is a determinant calculation. Calculation එකක් වෙන්නේ මෙතන. This is a process happening here. දැන් පුතා මෙන්න මෙහෙම scene එකක්. Put a plus sign, minus sign, plus minus plus. Okay, what is it? Plus minus plus. Plus minus plus. Now this is the operation. How this operation is performed? Then Buddha, drink some water, open your ears, open your eyes, open your brains, listen. Ahang hidapalla. Liyan depap akurakpat mekide. Listen. Mokakda metana wenni. What happens here? Metana Buddha menna mehema sigin ekak. I'm selecting the first column. We select what, Buddha? Column by column, okay? Column by column. Column making column make we are select. I'm selecting the first column. Make oluwen karanna ona wedakka. I'll do it as a rough work. x1, x2, x3, y1, y2, y3, 1, 1, 1. Plus, minus, plus. Listen now. We select column by column. So let's say I'm selecting the first column. This is my selection. We start. It's easy to start from a order. Okay, better to start from order. It's easy to understand. If I select the first column, column actually we are selecting. We are selecting puta me first term maker. We are selecting the first term actually, not the column. We are selecting the first term. Me first term එක select කරොත් මොකෝ වෙන්නේ? අබුදා this line and this line is discarded. උන් දෙන්න discard වෙනවා. උන් දෙන්න discard වෙනවා. Listen now, understand the process. Those two are getting discarded. Now what happens? What do we select? first row in take the first term. Only the first row, first term, second term, third terms are considered. If I'm selecting the first term, it belongs to the first column and the first row. So the first column and the first row discarded. Remember the process. This is a long calculation. Remember the process. Make this one and this one discarded. Then we go inside a curly bracket. Make a calculation. Okay. In a curly bracket, x1 we selected, then x1 times, open a bracket. x1 times. Mokak the Puta, this is minus no. Make a minus y2. This sign symbols that all the terms in there are multiplied by minus. Method in plus one, it's going to be minus. Minus one, minus into minus plus one. This column is all the terms are multiplied by minus. Minus in the minus y2. Minus y2 multiplied by diagonal value 1. Diagonal value 1. It was minus y3 multiplied by diagonal value 1. Okay. If you can't remember like that, minus y2 times 1 plus this is plus 1 multiplied by y3. Plus 1 multiplied by y3. Plus 1 multiplied by minus y3. Minus y3. Minus y3. Again, what's the process? Again, what is the process? What is the process? From the vertices of the triangle, create the matrix. Matrix create karala, then using the matrix, define the determinant. Det. A det notation is these two lines. Copy this matrix and paste it here. Plus, minus, plus. Select the first term. So first term times this one and this one discarded. Minus this is minus y2 times its diagonal value. Diagonal value 1. Then this is plus 1 times this is minus y3, diagonal value 1 times minus 3, plus 1 times minus 3. Next, I'm not going to write in front of this since I want to show you the calculation clearly. I will write below this one. Then now x1, x2, x3, this is rough work. y1, y2, y3, 1, 1, 1, plus, minus, plus tibbi. I'm selecting this. Selecting the second row. Always remember, row select first from the first row. Only from the first row. Then this line, this row is discarded. This column is discarded. Uge kelling in the set discarded. Uge kelling in your discarded. Now, selected this y1. It is in the minus column, no? Minus y1 times. That's how we write. Minus y1 times. Minus y1 times. Listen. Plus here, plus x2 multiplied by its diagonal, okay? You have to multiply the diagonal. Plus x2 multiplied by plus 1. Plus x2 multiplied by plus 1. Plus x2 multiplied by plus 1. Hari. Ilangata. Plus x2 multiplied by plus 1. Next. Plus 1 multiplied by plus x3. Plus 1 multiplied by plus x3. Okay. Make a plus 1, just write it as plus 1. Plus 1 multiplied by plus x3. Next, open x1, x2, x3, y1, y2, y3, 1, 1, 1, plus, minus, plus. 1 selected, this line discarded, this line discarded. Then plus x2 minus y3 here, plus 1 times plus x2 minus y3, then minus y2 plus x3, minus y2 plus x3. ඔන්න ඔහොම තමයි debt එක calculate වෙන්නේ. That's how we calculate the debt. Okay, that's how we calculate the debt. Debt means the determinant. I noticed that you can't see the corner part, that's why I pulled the board a little bit this side. Then hurry. Okay, so I just close the curly brackets. මම පොඩ්ඩක් මෙහාට අරන් ලියන්නම්. Plus 1 x2 times minus y3 minus y2 times plus x3. ඔන්න ඔහොමයි. Okay, so what does this give? This gives you the determinant only. Now what you have to do, whatever the value you get from the determinant, uge absolute value එක ගන්න ඕන. Determinant eke absolute value is multiplied by half, gives you the area. We'll do an example. Just understand, write this one and then write this process. May process එක ලියාගන්න. When you are doing the multiplication or when you are simply getting the determinant, remember the process and do. How to remember the process carefully and do. තනියෙන් කරන්න උටක් කාලේ. I'll give you like 1 minute. Carefully decode and do. Concentration එක තියෙන්නේ නැතුව කොහෙවත් ඉඳලා ආපස් මේක බලලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් වලට උත්තර දෙන්නේ නැහැ මම. From the questions I can understand whether you are concentrating or not. If it is a logical question, obviously I will answer. Quickly do it. I forgot to mention, when you are taking the determinant, මෙතන always minus, okay? මෙතන addition එක නෙමෙයි ඉන්නේ, එතන minus. This is here minus times minus y2 කියලා එන්නේ. Minus times minus y2, okay? When we select x1, this one and this one discarded, minus y2 times plus 1, ඊට පස්සේ by default minus plus 1 times minus y3. By default minus plus 1 times minus y3. Then I'm selecting minus y1 or minus y1 times this row and this column discarded, x2 times plus 1, by default minus plus 1 times plus x3. Then I'm selecting plus 1, then plus 1 times this row and this column discarded, plus x2 times minus y3, by default minus y2 times plus x3. I forgot to mention that this is minus කියන එක. By default we have a minus. One comma 3 minus 2 comma minus 5 and 7 comma minus 3. These are the coordinates, right? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's develop a matrix. I will give a name for the matrix as capital M. Curl brackets. Always remember, better to open a curved bracket. So x coordinates are in the first column, 1, 7, minus 2. Y coordinates are in the next column. If I'm taking 1, 7, minus 2 in this order, 3, minus 3, minus 5. And then 1, 1, 1. There's a 3 by 3 matrix. Now what we do? And then Puta, you have to calculate the determinant. Determinant of this capital M matrix. This is the notation for the determinant. What do we do? There 1, 7, minus 2, 3, minus 3, minus 5, 1, 1, 1. Make up the plus, minus, plus. What's the process? What's the process? Plus, minus, plus. What is the process? A determinant of m. This is equals to, a process is put as select the first term. 1. Okay. Inside a curly bracket, better to do it. Better to remain inside a curly bracket, do it. 1 multiplied by O, open a bracket, plus 1 times this row and this column, sorry, this column and this row discarded, minus minus 3. May minus is belong from this minus, you have to multiply this number. Minus minus 3 times plus 1 by default minus 1 times minus 5 is coming from the minus column in a minus minus 5. Amen. Minus minus 5. Then I am selecting the next number, minus 3. Here minus, this is plus 3. Minus into plus minus, minus 3 times this row and this column discarded. This row and this column discarded. 7 times minus minus 5. No, this is minus 5. It's from the minus column. And make I minus only multiply. Whatever the number here, multiplied by this minus. This is plus 3. No, plus 3 multiplied by minus is minus 3. Now, this column is discarded. And make this one times this one. No, plus into plus. Plus 7 times 1. By default minus. Plus 1 times. This is plus into minus is minus, minus 2. Then still writing. So if I take this one and this one discarded, 7 times from the minus column here, plus 1 times, 7 times. From this minus column, we have minus 5 and a minus minus 5. By default minus, minus minus 3 is plus 3, or is minus minus 3. Just for better, this is minus 3 in the minus column, that's why minus minus 3. From where this minus comes? By default. Make a default in a minus. Make a process in a minus. Minus 3 is multiplied by its columns sign. Then multiplied by minus, plus into minus equals minus, minus 2. Close brackets. So we get the determinant of m is equals to, these are just numbers simplified. Minus into minus plus, plus 3, minus minus plus, plus 5, plus 3 into here, this is plus 5, plus 5 into minus 1 is minus 5, plus 3 minus 5 is minus 2. How about this? 7 into 1 is 7, minus 1 into minus 2 is plus 2, plus 7 plus 2 is plus 9, plus 9 times minus 3 is minus 27. Minus 27. Simplification, these are numerical simplifications. Minus into minus plus, 7 times 5 is equals to plus 35. Minus into minus plus, plus into minus equals to minus. Method minus into minus plus, plus into minus equals to minus. 3 times 2 is 6. So this gives you minus 6. Minus 6 is multiplied by outside minus sign, plus 6. Plus 6. Plus 6 plus 35 is equals to plus 41. So now simplify. This one is minus 30, minus 29, minus 29 now, 41 minus 29. Here the 2, 12, no? 12. So determinant of m is 12. Arne? 41 minus 29. How the calculation? Check the calculation. Do the calculation carefully. This is the only example I will do. Make an exam. Make it. Then not okay, plus 12. Now what happens? May plus 12 is you have to put inside this curve brackets. Huh? Now the area of the triangle. What is the area of the triangle? Half into modulus of the determinant of the matrix created by the vertices of the triangle. Determinant of the matrix is 12. Modulus of the determinant, huh? Minus 12 over plus 12 will plus 12 is already plus 12. So this is half times 12. This is 6 units square. If it is meters, square meters. 7 square meters, like that. So area of this triangle is 6 square units. 6 square units. 6 square units. You can ask me, sir, as a half time base into height, the mechara dangalanna. This is how computer graphics, large language models like ChatGPT, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, image processing models, ඔක්කොම වැඩ කරන්නේ මේකේ. Just half into base into height වලින් වැඩ කරන්නේ. Complicated. මේවා complicated දුනාට this is very effective. Calculation process එක මාරම effective and very accurate. This is what we use to develop the neural networks also when it comes to machine learning. Alright, this is just an introduction for you. Just an introduction. මේක ගැන ලොකුවට වද වෙන්න එපා. පොඩ්ඩක් calculations හදාගත්ත නම් ඇති.